Well, hello, and welcome to the Vetly Speaking Podcast. I'm your host, Dee Glodowski, and welcome to episode 10. I am super excited to have this very special guest with a fellow sister chief. And for those non-veterans out there that are not tracking, when we say sister chiefs, the fact that both of us were retired chief master sergeants in the Air Force. Obviously, my special guest went a little bit further than I did in my career, but we always still like to call ourselves sister chiefs. And I'm just really happy to have the great Queen, Rochelle Hemingway, retired Command Chief Master Sergeant in the Air Force, and now CEO founder of Slay to Success. I'm so happy to have Rochelle Hemingway.
I'm so happy to be here, Dee Dee. I just really don't know. Like, this is a long time waiting. So I am
It is.
so happy we were able to connect
It
and
is.
actually do this together.
It's funny because I know when we set this in the calendar, I told myself I have got to look really good for the queen today. Is I have to make sure I'm slaying very well on this podcast. So,
And you met the assignment. So you
thank you very
did.
much. Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you very
Yes.
much. Well, how are you? You look great.
Thank you. I am doing absolutely wonderful. Thank you
How's
for asking.
retirement? How's retirement treating you?
Very well. I'm very busy.
I could see,
Yeah.
before we really go deep into this, right? I always start out with asking the very basic question, who is Rochelle? You know, very,
Rochelle has many layers. Um, Rochelle once
hey, I
she
like the
is,
way you started that.
yeah,
Ooh,
she's very confident. She's
okay.
secure. She is at peace. She has found her way in a world that she didn't know even existed like it is. I love everything fitness. So if you talk to me about doing burpees and
Peloton.
sprints and Peloton, like I'm your girl. Like we could talk about that for hours and hours. I love criminal shows, anywhere from Judge Judy to Cold Case Files, Dateline, 24/7. I absolutely just love the suspense of knowing what's going to happen at the end.
Yeah.
And I'm a shopaholic. I love to go out and find things that I'm being very intentional now in these later years about what I select because I am building a brand for myself. So I don't want to just waste my money on just anything. But I have seen another side of Rochelle that I had not seen before.
Hmm.
And that is the beauty of being able to transition and redefine yourself. And I just started to take the challenge on what that would look like. And I'm really happy to see this new version of Rochelle.
I love the confidence that you
Mhm.
have. I mean, it's not transparency, obviously, knowing your military career. I think at some point you get to be the level that we both kind of went in our career, right? After how many
Yeah.
years of service how many years of service did you serve
I
for?
served for 30.
30 years. And I
Mhm.
mean, that is pretty much your formative life as an
It
adult
is.
and
It
all you've
is.
done. And you don't get to where you got to without having that kind of confidence. I love the way you introduced yourself, right? They always talk to us in that leadership sphere of your elevator pitch and
Mhm.
how you would introduce yourself that first 20 seconds. And I love how you came out the gate with that burst of confidence on who
Yeah.
you are, and that
Yeah.
authenticity, it shows. And it's one of those things that I really love about our service. And I feel like what it taught, at least for me, what it taught me. I mean, I like to
Yeah.
say I was confident before I came in the military, but the military just kind of shapes that and makes you build on it,
Yeah.
right? I have to say, there are a couple of things when you were introducing yourself stuck in my head that I wanted to ask, right? You building a brand. When I
Yes.
would mentor during my mentorship time frame, when I would always mentor people, I'd say, you know what, look, you are an airman,
Mhm.
but you're also building your own brand in uniform.
Yes.
When people say your name, whether it's Staff Sergeant X or Senior Master Sergeant you or Chief so and so, what's the first thing people think of when they hear your name, right? That is your brand.
It
That
is.
is your, it's look at it like a commercial, right?
Mhm.
It's like, oh, yeah, she's always late or he's always late. I can't, he doesn't X I or top, we love the terms, top
Yeah.
notch,
Yes.
trailblazer, superstar, you name it.
Yes.
So what's your brand? And I love the fact that you do talk about that. But what I'm
Yeah.
really interested in hearing is that you obviously knew your brand in the military. Now that you've transitioned to the civilian life and you're reinventing yourself, you would like to say, how has that bridge been for you? How is that journey into building the brand from Chief Hemingway to retired Chief Hemingway, CEO, slave to success, right?
Yeah.
What is that journey like in building that brand for you?
I think mine came by mistake,
Interesting.
but the mistake wasn't by happenstance. So I was talking to one of my mentors before I retired, and she was
Okay.
my supervisor many years ago. And so I'm on the phone with her, and she's just, "Oh, I'm so proud of you. I can't even believe that you're retiring." And we're just having a conversation. Now, her husband was sitting, close to her and said, "Give me the phone." Now, he was also serving in the military, and I knew him, but I didn't have a really close relationship with him. And he said, "Hey, nobody knows anything about Chief. Okay. When you go on out introducing yourself, when you say, 'Hey, I'm Chief Master Sergeant, Rochelle Hemingway,' they're gonna look at you like you got 10 heads if you're outside of the civilian, in the civilian sector. Like in the military community, okay. But if you're going out and you're venturing and you're trying to explore that space," and he shared with me his experience. And
Mhm.
so from that planted the seed. I was like, he's got a point here. And I'm just going to take this and I'm just going to use it, not right away, because I did like fumble a lot at the beginning to reinvent myself
How do you
and to
mean?
reintroduce myself because I was going to networking events and I chose to just attend anything that was in alignment with how I wanted to spend my time. And so I was looking search engine women leadership groups. I mean, that's literally what I did. I would put it into Facebook and I want to know in my community what existed because I felt like I would be comfortable in that space. Just knowing as a woman, being a leader in the military, they would be like minded. So I wanted to, make new friends really that were, in the same way. And so I attended a couple of networking events with a lot of women. And I would introduce myself as, yeah, like I just retired. I retired after serving 30 years and I'll just go in. And I could tell that people were a little bit intimidated, like they were a little bit scared. And that was not the reaction that I wanted. I was like, man, I went in too hot. I am telling them a lot of things. Sometimes our stories and our experiences, some people can't handle because of all the things that the military has given us opportunity to do. We've got to travel, meet new people, make new connections, do things in very challenging environments, chaotic, if you will. Like no kind of structure, if you will, when you go out into, different parts of the world. We had to kind of figure it out, right? So
So
I just
you think people were snobbish towards that
well,
or
yes, they were taken by. So I asked my mom. My mom is very blunt, and I just asked her, what people's sentiment about people who have served in the military. My dad served in the military for 23 years. I saw his transition, how it went, but I wanted to hear from her
yeah.
because she was the military spouse. And she says, some people think it's like that's your last resort. Like you couldn't figure out anything else, so you went into the military. Like, so sometimes that can, turn negatively to some people when they say, "Oh, I was serving in the military." We're like, "Oh, well, I've got like X amount of degrees," and I'm like, "I got that too," but it's still they took a different path. And sometimes I could feel like, well, you didn't really do anything really. And
Interesting. Huh.
so that was her take from what she's heard. So I started to pull back. And that's when I started to realize that I needed to rediscover myself and what was my identity outside of the uniform.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of just saying, what is it? I started to do it. So this is where all of the clothes, the energy, the vibe, if you will, it just started to take a hold of me because I realized that I feel so good. Like that life that I lived was, a military lifestyle was good. But
Mm-hmm.
now what can I do to convert that to make it like extremely awesome? So
Yeah.
you know, it, it was a slow, like I started to make very intentional decisions about the way that I wanted to live. And every decision that I made it make sure that my values, not necessarily the military core values, but my values were put up in front. And so now I get to do all the things that I absolutely want to do. I get to do and I want to do it. It's
Mm-hmm.
not like I'm forced to do it. So I think that it takes a minute. And a lot of people say, well, it just didn't take you very long at all. And I was like,
Didn't seem like it.
yeah, I just decided one day that I didn't want to go through the ups and downs of this emotional journey. Yes, it is a loss. Yes, we started out here with no one really that we knew. We have family here in the DMV, but we hadn't really connected with them over the years. My husband also served 30 years in the Air Force. So we moved from South Dakota to Maryland without ever living here before. We were never stationed here. And we just
Really?
said, mhm. And we just said, this is where we're going to start.
Why
And
Maryland?
well, originally we picked Virginia because we were
Okay.
stationed at Langley Air Force
Okay.
Base and we loved our house that we had. But my cousin, who is actually a realtor here in the DMV, and she's been a realtor for over 30 years, she called us and said, "Hey, I heard your mom was saying you all were going to go to Virginia. Can you, like take a moment to go look over in Maryland?" And they were like, "Well, what's in Maryland?" We had no idea. She found our home and we said, okay, let's just live here.
Yeah, take a leap.
Take a leap. Why not?
So ironic is, I mean, DMV, I I was 25 and a half. I didn't do 30 like you, 25 and a half.
Yeah.
And I was stationed here longer than any other place.
Yeah.
Pretty much the Pentagon. I was, so that's why when you said you were never here in the DMV, that's usually rare to hear that from that level of chief. You know what I mean? It's like in our circles of chief, it's like,
Yeah.
look, either the Pentagon,
Yeah.
Bowling, Andrews, like one of them bases around here is where we're kind of like sucked into. And um interesting, very, it's such an opposite for me because my transition, even though mentally, one of the things I always tell the young airmen, again, young service members coming up, is if you make this something that is a full-time career, if you will, up to 20, once you hit your 20-year mark and you happen to be one of the very few that keeps going, you
Hmm.
still have to have a plan where you tell yourself every year it could be your last year in service, where
Yeah.
you have to figure out who you would be outside the uniform.
Yeah.
Now, of course, saying that doesn't always mean that that's easy to do, because I know that even for me, as much as I believed in that, I did, but then I had like one foot in, one foot out. And for the most part, I spent the other leg dipping into the military side more so than I did the opposite, being the civilian side, until unfortunately when I got sick and my circumstance had it where I had to get out,
Yeah.
right? So even though it wasn't planned, my plan was, you know what, I could do 30, I could stretch for 30, and I was mapping it to be that way. And it was
Yeah.
aligned for me organizationally and mission wise and all that. It didn't work out that way, right? But in getting out, I won't say struggled. I floundered. I was like, what do I do? But then, you know what? I gave myself the grace and the peace. I'm like, you know what? There are no rules. I can do whatever. It could work.
Yeah.
It can work. I'm just going to do what I love to do and then figure it out from there. I
Yes.
literally did not have any kind of huge plan other than I knew I wanted to be in the DMV. Unlike you,
Yeah.
I knew I wanted to be in this area because my kids were born here. They went to elementary school here. We had all of their friends here and things like that. So it was a lot easier for me to kind of like, because it was such an abrupt change, come to a
Yeah.
place where I knew people and I was familiar.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
was the difference. But our transition journey is very unique. It can be very
Yes.
complex, and
Hmm.
but I always say it's nice. There's a little freedom. It's very nice because there's nothing holding you back but yourself.
No,
And
you're
you've got
right.
to bet on yourself. You have to
Yes.
bet on yourself. As scary as it is, you've got to bet on yourself because no one else will, you know?
You know what? You bring up such a great point too, because on our evals, how much they told us that we were so great. I think I've got like rock star and like bulldog
The
and all
number
kinds
one
of.
of that was my favorite one. Number one of dot dot dot. You're like, oh yeah, I'm number one. And you walk around with your boots looking all sharp, and you're like, yeah, no one can tell me nothing.
That's right. You know, but then somewhere along the way in transition, you forget, like who you are, like what you're capable of, and how much a bad mamma jamma you are. And so I was like, I had to go back to my evals, some of them. I didn't go through all.
You did? I was
I went through like the last 5 years because the last
really
5 years really shaped Slay to success.
okay.
And I wanted to see the point of when it started to show up, and the words that I use are words that were on my EPR. It's so crazy how when we start to think about when you talk about the origin of whatever we do and really looking and saying, you know what, this is not anything really new. Like this was in the making. So, slay, the word in itself, was from a very painful moment in my career.
Really?
Days before I deployed to Jordan and Kuwait, where I was flying in between those two countries every 2 weeks. Because
Really?
as the chief of the medical group, they had two locations,
Got it.
right? And so, in order to manage and check in, the commander and I decided, hey, we need to just make this as a routine.
Yeah.
But before that, a few days before, one of my airmen who I was very close to lost his battle with depression.
Oh.
I was going to all his mental health treatment. I was actively involved, engaged. He would talk to me about, his life and what he was, dealing with. And so we had this very special bond.
Mm.
But one of the things that he always used to say to me was, Chief, you're slaying it today. If nobody else tells you, I'm going to tell you right now, they ain't got nothing on you. Because when you show up, I was like,
You're present and accounted for.
anyone else who could do it like you.
Mm.
And so when I was on that deployment, I looked up the word and because when he was 20s, I'm 40s, I'm like, I don't even know what he's talking about. But when I looked it up and I saw the definition, I was
It
like,
was in the dictionary?
it's in the Urban Dictionary. It is
Oh,
not in
really?
the regular dictionary. And now
Uh,
slay, the other version of, killing and
Slay the dragon.
slaying the dragons. That's all in the regular dictionary. But then the urban dictionary, it means to kill it, to dominate it, and to nail it, to be on point, to impress greatly, and to dream big and work hard until you own it.
Okay.
So I said, yes, that is me. And so I started to embody slay, like really feel. And so when I came back from the deployment, the young airman, like, what is happening? Because I started to use it in all my messaging. And then I said, you know what? I got selected to be the command chief at Ellsworth Air Force Base in South Dakota. And I said, I just can't go on stage, introduce myself and tell them what my mission and vision is and just say, and y'all, we're going to be slated. I was like, it needs to mean something. So I spent about maybe 2 or 3 weeks really thinking about some leadership philosophies that helped me throughout my whole entire career. So, I settled on, because I had so many, but I said, stay ready to be ready, lead out loud, a sense of community or a sense of family, and you are built to last.
Love it.
And I said, you know what? You're going to use this. And the last 5 years or so, that's what I was sharing.
Your mantra. That's it.
The mantra. And it was just on and on and on. And so when I transitioned, I was like, I'm not going to change anything up beside adding to success. Okay. We're slaying to success. And so that's just kind of how it all evolved. And it's given me so much purpose. Like I can wake up and work all day and not even realize what time it is and go, wait a minute.
I got to do something else.
Outside and get some air. You need to go walk around,
Yeah.
because I am so like it's fitting for me. It's for me. And so I took an opportunity, like seizing an opportunity to really grab onto something that I could hang my hat on at any point. And now in this next chapter, if you will, it is resonating. People are wrapping their heads, like they're like, I want to be part of Slay Nation too. I'm like, okay, let's.
There's Slay Nation. My goodness. It's a whole sleigh. I feel like I could see like a merchandise. And
it's a whole thing. Like I'm building right now as we are talking. I'm like, yeah, like we're gonna rip the band-aid off and we're just gonna go for it. Because I feel like in today's world, there is so much of the other side that people are they're feeling in their soul. And if I could do just one small piece of love and inspiration and kindness and care and energy. I'm just like, I just know that it's going to make a difference.
yeah.
It can make a difference in someone's life. If I just even affect one person,
Yes.
then my day is done. Right.
Yeah.
So that's just how I move. I'm just so grateful. I'm just so grateful that I get to. I really, really, really am.
It's amazing. Slay to success. When you have your events, what does that look like? So when you say slay to success, I love how you define the acronym. I truly see that as a bookmark that you need to have like little bookmarks that you have in your events for people to use when they read. But what does that mean? What does slay to success mean? And what do you do when you go out there with this organization and you meet people? What does that look like?
Yeah, Slate of Success has many arms and a lot of moving parts. So I'm gonna just start from when it all kind of like started to really take off and there was some momentum behind it. Right before I retired, I wrote my first book. And it wasn't to be a bestseller or anything like that. It was again, I was hearing someone on YouTube during the pandemic, and there's like, books, they're evergreen. You can put it out there. It's a legacy. And somebody wants to hear your story or read your story. And I said, well, I got a story for them. And so I said, I'm just going to write about my experience in the military. And I learned how to self publish on Amazon. And I just published it. I didn't tell anybody. And when I had it in my hand, I took it to my husband. He's like, what is this? What is happening here? I said, this is just a copy of my first book.
I'm sure you were immensely proud of yourself. You know how hard
I
it is to be
was
an author?
I was taken back because it's not like, something that's perfect or anything, but it was my way to just get out of my comfort zone of just keeping things to myself and
Mhm.
and then challenging myself. Can I
Yeah.
really do this? So I did that. Then I started getting asked to come and speak. Well, they ask us sometimes to go in our uniform. And I seen some of the men, no offense to any of the men that go out and do that after they retire.
They do it in their uniform?
Yeah, they go as a keynote speaker or guest
Oh,
speaker. There are some that are out there, they're still wearing their uniform. Yeah.
I didn't know this.
So I got called and they said, yeah, and the commander really wants you to wear your mess dress. And I said, well, yeah, even have to tell you, commander, that's not what I'm going to be wearing. And if he doesn't want to see pink on the stage, then I'm not his girl. Okay. So, and that was the first time like I made a firm decision on how I was going to show up.
Yeah, your
And
brand.
they came back and they said, yeah, no worries. Okay. So I turned that pink all the way up and it said I had pink coat, pink dress. I was looking like a little Cinderella. And they're like, what? But you know what it did? The other
Mhm.
women that were in uniform, they got to see what the possibility could be. And that is what I wanted to leave with them. It wasn't necessarily getting on the stage and speaking. It was a representation and showing them that there is a different way to lead. You don't
Mm.
have to look like the typical, all right? Even out of uniform. And leadership is leadership,
Yeah.
So I'm just like, I'm just going to just rebrand everything that I do.
Yeah.
And so Slated Success really looks like books. It looks like talk shows. It looks like, you know, uh, speaking on
Events.
stages,
Yeah.
events, style, you know, anything that says I'm here, I want to show up, I deserve to be seen. That's what this is about.
So when you travel, because I see when I follow
Mhm.
you on your page, I see you sometimes on the stage with
Yeah.
your own little temporary wardrobe on the stage. What are you doing when you have that there? And I know I look forward to attending, and transparency. I need to read your book,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
I'm glad that I will be a guest on your podcast at some point.
Yes.
And I put it out the bag, but I'm excited. And I would have the book. I would have read your book by then.
Yeah, yeah.
But when you go on stage with your outfits, what are you doing with that?
So I got my certification as an image consultant.
Oh,
Yeah. And it's nothing like I did when I was in the military. And I was like, I love everything style, fashion. What is it that I could take and learn more about? And so, again, doing some research and exploring, I said, oh, image consulting. Okay, great. Awesome. So I got that. And, one of the things that I know a lot of women have, some struggles with is really finding pieces that speaks to who they are. And I'm very much an experience. I like to show people. You could talk about it, but there's nothing like having something visual,
vision.
so they can see, like me, the banner, the clothes, the books, it's a full system that all it's consistent. It's very much like branded and it gives them something to aspire to do for themselves. And so I've seen people who have had booths up and their booths at events was kind of like, and then, months later, they're like, my goodness, you got to come over here and look at my booth. I did all this because I saw yours. And I'm like, yes,
Yes.
yes, and that is truly like being a catalyst or a fire starter,
Mhm.
a kickstart for someone who had been struggling and wasn't quite sure how to just go out and just do it. I get to be that person on their journey, so they can get that and they can like move into wherever they're trying to go. So I know that about myself. I'm not afraid to show and be very transparent of what I am doing. And that is what's really given me opportunities. So I get a lot of opportunities I'm racking and stacking. I'm like, okay, like I can hear, you know how we were in service. They had the calendar and we're like
Yep.
moving things and stuff like that.
Yep.
Now, nowadays I put a lot more white space in between so that I don't like get
Burn your
too,
yeah.
yeah, and it's very much in alignment with what I am trying to do. But it could be, so it could be so much bigger, but you just have to take the small steps to get there. And
Yeah.
that's what I'm doing.
It's so gratifying when you find that passion. Again, it doesn't feel like work. And especially when you're done with after years of,
Yeah.
even though we loved our service, you had this regimen. Wake up,
Yeah.
it's like you did this and you were, it's like I told my kids, when we serve, you are married to the force, like literally.
Married.
And if you care, especially if you really care about your role,
Yes.
and you get to be a chief, I would
Yes.
tell I'll tell my folks and I'm like, you know what? I am literally at your call. When you need me, I'm there. Now when you get out, it's mind shift. This is I'm on my schedule. I'm on my time. I'm selfish. It's my time, which I like. What has been, though, even though you're confident and I get it, what has been your biggest challenge, though? Because I mean, we're human, right?
Yeah, we are human. And funny enough that you would say that, but my confidence level went down after I retired. We moved out here and I was in my closet unpacking boxes and I just kept pulling out like the uniform, right? And the brown khaki pants and the
Mm.
polo shirts and the t-shirts that from every K, 10K or some sort of event that they gave us, these free t-shirts for.
Did you say brown khaki pants?
Yeah.
It just dawned on me. I'm like, wait, I started to go through our uniform. When did you come in? What year? I'm sorry.
I'm not talking about the brown khaki pants were like the cargo pants that we used to wear like
Yeah,
outside and
yeah, like the DSUs, the desert wear, or
It's
just
no, just any pair of khaki pants because that's what they wanted us to wear when as chiefs we were out doing networking events and all this other stuff after
oh,
hours. Yeah, with the community. They're like, "Oh yeah, and
oh,
the dress for tonight is khaki pants and a polo shirt."
got it. I see what you're saying. Got it.
And I'm like, I had
I
like
had
four
to
or
think
five.
about that. Sorry, so to tell you, I've only been retired for a year. I like did a brain dump. I'm like, what?
That's a good thing.
Yes, it is. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So it's like I don't even know. I don't even know what I'm doing. I literally out loud, my husband was around the corner and he's hearing me having this meltdown. And I'm like,
You
no,
crying?
I was crying. I was like angry. I was frustrated. I was anxious. I was worried. I
Mm,
was all these different type of emotions because I'm like, I don't know where to begin. I feel like I'm starting from scratch. That's kind of how my brain was operating at that time.
yeah.
And it was like I don't know what I'm doing. I don't I don't know where I fit in the world. I don't know where I belong. And he was like, "You need to calm down." I was like, I can't help it. And I think for about 2 weeks, I just cried on and off because I felt like, all the things that we had built and earned up to that point, it was just all gone. Poof, and there nobody's calling you, nobody's asking for advice, nobody's like, swinging by, checking in on you. And so I felt lost. I would walk
Mm,
around the neighborhood and I just was walking, just walking. I don't even know, just like thinking and praying and just really like just feeling really down. And I was also worried about our son because, our kids travel with us. They go to these different schools. I just like, he's not going to adjust. It's going to, he had a hard time in South Dakota. We're going to come out here and it's going to be all our fault, like all these things. And I was just sort of spiraling out of control, literally. So I had to redefine, who I was, find my voice again, find my footing, make new friends, get into the business, collaborate. instead of, having all this command structure, build relationships, which is, different because relationships in the military, they're different. And
How so?
when we got to our rank, there were a lot of transactional relationships happening. I have the rank,
True.
I have the rank, I have the position, I have the authority. And many times people just want to use that. And then so the relationship is not truly a genuine, sincere relationship.
You didn't think so? I mean,
No,
for the most part, really.
no. Many of
Interesting.
those, because, as I've, transitioned, I don't talk to nearly, I think I got probably a handful, and I'll put this hand up, of individuals that I'm close to that I served with.
Yeah.
The rest of them, go ahead.
Just look at it like it's that, I guess, a family structure. It's a given, you know? Okay, transactional, but if I saw them again tomorrow, it's like I didn't skip a beat. I may not have been close to you, but there is like a connection that
There's a
nobody else
connection.
has.
Yeah, there's
As
a connection.
veterans, right? That
Yeah.
is just there. It's an unspoken type of connection, phantom, if you will, but
Mm,
it's there. I
yeah.
that at least that's how I not for everyone, but for the most part, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I saw a lot of transactional, a lot, especially in my last role.
Yeah, I guess you're in
And, when you
command.
get to that point,
Mm,
it's either you're in or you're out. Like that's kind of how sometimes your people see the position. You're either in or you're out. And so a lot of times they would try to build a relationship with me, but then I come to find out that they were talking behind my back, they were undermining me, they were speaking ill wills, and it was all kinds of crazy. And different communities, when you go outside of your own community and you are working in another community where they have been in community for a very long time, sometimes you feel like you're the outsider in, because I was a medic, and how I was able to get, as command chief, B-1 bomber. Okay. So, to them, I'm an outsider, you
yeah.
know, as a whole. Now, there's some really great people, of course, but my experience, I saw a lot of transactional relationship happening. So, I decided, hey, I can't do anything about the past, and my past is not going to dictate my future. It's just not. So, that's how I just slowly started to rebuild the right relationships with the right people and surround myself with like-minded people. And this is how, like, opportunities can be coming your way. Like my community, they give me opportunities. I don't search for them. They
Yeah.
just say, "Hey, I think you would be great at this. What do you think?" And then I get to decide. Yes
How
or
many speaking engagements do you have a month?
I would say
Roughly.
on average maybe 4 to 5.
Bad at all.
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
travel? Do you
I do
take
travel.
okay. Overseas? Do you go international?
I have not gone international as close. I've been to Alaska, um, and did a speaking engagement there. But that is the farthest that I have been so far.
So do you see yourself taking that? Do you see Slay of Success growing to where you have other people doing it under
Yes,
the auspice of under the
yes,
umbrella of Slay to Success?
yes. And so, it's funny that you asked this because 2 months ago I was like, I need other slay queens. Okay, like who can.
Things. Notice that, like, look, I figured, it's a woman thing, but what about the men out there?
So, I have a heart for women, especially high level achieving women.
Okay.
I don't like tell men no. I mean, I've had a man, as a client. And so one of the things that I built is it's called Brand Boldly. Brand Boldly program. It's an experience where we go
Mm,
through identity work, and it's just the blueprint that I use to get to where I'm at right now. So I see that as being, the signature, and then having others teach the same way, and grow others to build, and now have this again, Slay Nation or SlayCon. It's just like, it's just, I want it to be bigger, but I want it also to be standing, like very professional, very classy, very high end, like I want to be the person to help these individuals to live out their best life. Because you're
Okay.
right. High level women, we wear many hats. Many people don't see the many hats. I don't know how many hats when I was still in service, still have a lot of hats that I'm wearing out of service. Right. And so a lot of things that's the responsibilities that are placed on us, and sometimes by society, if you will, that we have to kind of navigate through. So I know the challenges for women, especially Black women, because I know my challenge in the military was very hard. It was not check, 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 and here you go. It wasn't linear. It was like all over the place, trying to navigate in places that people didn't want to see me in leadership.
Really? So stay there for a minute. You
Yeah.
say, can you give some examples and how were you able to overcome those?
Yeah. So my first experience where I was aware, because when you're younger, sometimes you're not even paying attention. I had
You're
my head
going through
down.
the grind. Yeah.
Yeah, you're just doing your work. I was like, I don't want to get in trouble. I got my head down. Like, I don't want to be seen. I'm out here, right? So I was selected as a first sergeant for maintenance. Again, I'm a medical, and here I am in a place in a male dominated career. And now I'm asked to make decisions, help make decisions, right? And be part of the team to do that. And I had a senior master sergeant come into my office, and he says, people don't like taking orders from you. And I said, well, what are you talking about? You're a medic, so you don't really know anything about maintenance business. And you're a woman. There's not too many women here. You know, I mean, he was just going on and on and on, like he was free, willing to do all these things. And I'm sitting in there and going, "Hmm, okay." So that was like the first. And I said, now I have to navigate. Now I have to come up with strategies, which no one told me that I needed to even think that through. I just wanted to do my job. That's all I wanted to do. So I got a couple of mentors. And thank goodness, we were at Nellis Air Force Base in Nevada. And I was able to find a couple of other Black female chiefs that were stationed there. And I said, I need mentorship. I need help. I don't know if I'm even going to last in this environment. That environment set me up for the next environment as a first sergeant with civil engineer,
Oh,
another
wow.
heavy male dominated unit. But this time I took some of those strategies that I started to use to navigate. So for me, I had to learn the language. You have to learn the language for which that unit has. I had to learn the landscape. I had to learn the history. I had to learn who was winning and who wasn't winning. I needed to learn like all kinds of little insights to help me to plan out. Like if I want to have a discussion with someone, I have to figure first of all, who do they work for? What kind of environment have they set up in that section? How do they operate? Who do I need to have in the room? And it just came down to that, because I knew somebody would be like, oh no, she said this and she said that. And I was like, no, I did not say all that, because I had someone else in the room, but somehow, some way I developed all these different strategies. So when I actually got to Ellsworth, I was like, I've seen this over and over and over again. Okay. So now I'm going to have to use some of these strategies to help me to navigate in this. And I can't say that I did everything right, but I do know that, my heart was, I want to take care of people. I'm trying to take care of people, but I do have to make firm decisions. That's just, how it is. And as long as I can explain it and it has some common sense behind it, I have to be okay with it, you know because not everything is in a perfect world. But I was faced with a lot of resistance.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm sure you fought hard and you did the work,
Yeah,
right? Because I mean,
yeah,
for the most part, and I have been in that situation too, but you feel compelled to, just like you said, okay, I'm going to go out there, learn the story. I may not be a
Yep.
maintainer, but you know what? I want to come from a position of teach me, right?
Yep.
How to not necessarily be a maintainer, but to understand what it is
To
you
understand.
do for me to better help serve you. I'm here to
Absolutely.
serve you. I'm not here to dominate you, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Because we are a team and I
Yeah.
can't do it without you. It's not
Yep.
easy to do. And
No.
also, then there's the element of time, right?
Yeah.
It's really time. But so you were able to overcome, right? And
Yeah.
I'm sure at
Yeah.
some point, you're not going to win them all.
No, no. You
You're
have to pick
never
your
going to win them
battles.
all.
Yeah, you have to pick them and you have to pick the right ones. You have to weigh everything out, you know?
Yeah.
So I didn't want to exert too much. Like at the end, I was exhausted. The pandemic exhausted me. All
Yeah.
right.
Exhausted a lot of
George,
people.
yeah, George Floyd exhausted me because now I became the mouthpiece, right? It's like, oh, now you can speak on behalf and advocate. And I was like,
Did you like that though? You became the
um,
mouthpiece. Why were you the mouthpiece?
because everybody was afraid to say
Mm.
and didn't want to get ahead of another person who should, they waiting for the memo from the higher up
Hmm.
before they would say anything. And so there was a gap. And so who's filling the gap? Someone who needs to speak up and say, I see you. I know you're hurting. I know that there's a lot of emotions behind what you're going through. Who's filling that gap? Well, I fill the gap. When you are one of a few that are filling the gap, it gets to be a lot. You yourself are going through emotions and then trying to take care of everyone as they're going through that. We had a lot of loss at Ellsworth. Unfortunately, we had a lot of yeah.
Was it due to all this or was it just
It
in
was
general?
just in general. I think it was just that the base is hard in itself because of the
I
mission.
I know.
The bomber, it's an older plane. You're trying to work an old plane. You got to work on five old planes to get one of them up. All right. So, and the weather is it never pans out.
Remember that so much. I was just like, after basic, when they tell you to put your dream sheet, I had everything overseas. And the day they started to read out where people were going to be stationed at, they were like, they called my name. They said, Ellsworth, South Dakota. I said, are you kidding me? You're sending me there? Right. And I remember going there and it was during the spring. So I was like, okay, you know what? The first winter, I can't remember, there's nothing blocking the wind. So whatever it was,
Oh
whatever the
my goodness.
temperature was with that windshield, you go ahead and tack on some more cold with that. And I remember having to go from the dorms.
Uh-huh.
If I remember, I was in the Lincoln, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I had to walk across to the door to the gym, and it was literally snowdrift. And I'm like, this is for the birds. I got to get out of here. I remember literally, and I would tell my story. I remember calling a chief. I was a senior airman. I called a chief in the Pentagon, my fam, and I was like, I don't care where. Give me orders out of here. I'll take anywhere. He's like, I don't have anywhere for you. You want to go to Korea? I'm like, done.
I think we both did the same route because I was at Malmstrom and that was my first base. And I ended up going to Korea. So, those Northern Tier bases, are just,
Was young though. It's so funny because I was young and I would go back
oh
today.
my goodness. I'm telling you right now, you got heated socks, heated jacket. I think that weather just got for my bones. And at my age, I was like, I am dying right now. Like I cannot stand out here any second, and you got, you know,
Full
planes with like,
beautiful
it's beautiful. The air is, clean, if you will, and there's a lot of open road and a lot of
open
open skies.
spaces. It's so beautiful. You know what I mean? It's like I didn't appreciate it when I was young.
Yeah, yeah,
Well,
it is cold there.
so what's on the horizon for Slate of Success? Where do you see Slate of Success short term, long?
I get asked this a lot, Dee. And to be honest, I don't know.
And
And the
is that
reason
okay?
and is well okay with me.
Okay.
because I see this as a journey. It's a part of the story. It's the unknown. I don't want to set myself up where I build out this structured plan because then it starts to look very military like, and I have like, okay, I've got these goals and I'm just going to go after them. Now, I know I could probably get there really because just based on my experience, but I want to experience something new, something that is surprising, that comes out of nowhere. I'm like doing things that I know I've already been ordered. Like my steps have already been ordered.
Mm.
And so I don't get too caught up with forcing. I used to force a lot, and I don't want to do that. So I have really changed my outlook on, what 6 to 12 months, a year out, or whatnot. Anything could change. Somebody could come in today and say, "Hey, I got another opportunity for you," right? And Slate to Success just kind of like stays at a humming, until I go and do something else, right? I'm open. And I think that's the beauty of, what I am building
Mm-hmm.
is it's not there's no destination. There's no like in street. It is just what it is every day. So
Scary though, not having an end, not having a destination of where you
mm,
think you want to go.
no, I have really gotten myself out of that space of being scared. And, one of the things that really changed my outlook too was my dad, he passed away a few months after I retired. He came to the retirement ceremony. It was the first time he had ever been to South Dakota. We
Mhm.
went to the
Mount
what's the
Rushmore.
yeah, yeah, Mount Rushmore, did the
Hmm.
whole thing, right?
Black Hills.
Black
Hmm.
Hills, Crazy Horse,
Hmm.
we did everything.
Yeah.
And he passed away in an airport that he was coming back from. He had
Oh,
traveled by
wow.
himself. So
Sorry to hear
weeks,
that.
yes, thank you. So 2 weeks before we came out here, we stopped. So we went from South Dakota and we stopped in Indiana. And we spent 3 weeks with our family. And my dad, he would just be sharing all the war stories, all kinds of things. We had a lot of time together. It was one of the first times in a long time where it was just me and him. So when I think about destiny
Mm.
and like forcing and trying and doing, if I was to pass away today, tomorrow, just suddenly, I would be so okay with what I am doing. I have built something that is serving other people.
Yeah.
It is not by happen, stance. And I use that word a lot because things just don't happen randomly. This was designed for me to have, to do. And I always think about my dad and the way that he transitioned,
Hmm.
but his life was so big, and he's still remembered today by so many people. And that's kind of how I want this journey to be. I'm not, I don't need anything. I don't have to do this.
Hmm.
I could just sit by and just allow the world to just pass me by. I don't need it. I chose to do this. And a lot of it is the investment from me. And so I get to do as little or as much as I want to. But when I hear people want to try to go hard in the paint for the business and all these other things, I just know it's not for me.
Yeah. I'm not going to even push further. First of all, I give you a
Oh,
virtual,
you can
I,
push.
I give you a virtual hug. That's
Oh,
one.
thank
Two,
you.
I know that I could literally have this conversation, and I hope that this is one of the many conversations that we would get to have
Yes,
together. I again, like I think I said at some point, I would love us to meet face to face, and
we
I would
will.
love to be in one of your events and
Yes.
maybe interview you there live on an event. I see that.
Yeah.
At least, but what I'm saying is that what you're doing out there, just like you said, even if you touch one person, It was kind of the same thing even when I was in the military. And, sometimes we had very great leaders that were just amazing.
Hmm.
And I know that I had some that I just wish I was like, well, as much as I don't want to be negative, I always found something, right? I said, you know what?
Yeah,
There's a reason why I have this individual, this person has a leader right now in this stage of my life. Not
yeah,
necessarily the best, but I'm learning something about
yeah,
myself and something about
yeah,
leadership. And what I'm telling you is that I would tell myself is that even if I touch one person, for every station, for every assignment I held, if I, in a positive way, influence one individual, I
yeah,
would have been a success in that assignment.
yeah.
And
So true.
I gotta say, keep slaying. I know that I enjoy watching your journey.
Oh,
You may
thank
not have
you.
a destination, but like at the end of the day, you are touching a lot of people in your own way, and
Yeah.
you're doing it through style. As much as I am not a pink girl, I am the opposite of pink. As a girl, I am a blue. My whole everything insignia, my car, I am blue and white all day long. And but I like the pink, and
Yeah.
I will, if I had to wear pink for you, I would wear pink for you, close my eyes the entire time that I'm wearing the pink. And as soon as the session is over, change
You can have
clothes.
socks or, like, watch or something like that. So you don't have to go all out now.
Hey,
You
there are
can go
people, I could see the pink. I laugh because there's this blazer that you have that's like hot pink. I was like, I don't know how she's pulling that off. I couldn't do it.
I turn it, especially when I have like 2 or 3 day events, like first day, easy, second day, turn just a little, and the third day, it's like, and they're
Amazing
like,
pink, from camo to pink.
exactly. It's like the extreme, and there's a reason for it. So it's from the extreme because you would never, ever, ever think, so and again, you can't judge a book by its cover.
By its cover.
So you don't know the whole story behind everything. So, and it gives me a chance to say that to myself when I meet other people. I don't know the whole story.
Yeah.
So,
You're still writing that story and keeps going and it
mhm,
keeps
yeah,
going.
yeah, yeah.
Well, Rochelle, thank you so much for being on the Vetly podcast. How will if they want to get a hold of you, where can they get a hold of you? And again, with all this, I will put your website information on my web page,
Okay.
vetspeakmediainc.com. And
Thank
where
you.
can people find you if they're looking for the Slay experience?
Well, they can first go to LinkedIn. I found that LinkedIn is the place that I really have built my brand. And it's by my name, Rochelle Hemingway. You can find me on YouTube. I have a YouTube channel titled Slay to Success. I also have a website, as you were referring to, www.slaytosuccess.com. I'm also on Facebook. On Facebook, I usually just share family and friend things, but you can find me there, Rochelle Hemingway. IG, you can find me at the Slay Boss Lady.
Love it.
You can also email me if you like at info@slaytosuccess.com.
Awesome. Yeah, I think at this point you're out there, just Google you, Slay to
Boop.
Success,
That's it.
and you
That's
will
all you
just
need to do.
pop out, right? So
Yeah.
thank you for being again here on the Vetly Speaking podcast. And for listeners out there, we really appreciate you listening in. It's been an amazing conversation with Rochelle, and look forward to for you guys to tune in the next episode at the Vetly Speaking podcast. And until then, take care of each other.